Hey guys, what's up? It's Samantha, and today I'm going to be memory keeping and talking about what I read for the week of October 19th through the 25th, which is my birthday week. So I had a really nice birthday week. I took the week off work, so I spent a lot of time at home chilling, relaxing. I got a really lovely Lego bookstore set from Joe for my birthday, so I spent a lot of time building that. I listened to audiobooks. I read a ton. I just got to relax. My mom did come and visit me on Tuesday, which was really nice. It's the last time that I've visited with any family members, and I'm looking forward to getting to see my family more in 2021. My parents both just got vaccinated, and I am thrilled that in a few weeks I will be able to see them and not have to worry about getting them sick. So very excited. Hopefully, we'll all be vaccinated sooner rather than later and be able to see my family again. So very, very excited for that future. But I digress. This was, like I said, a really great, relaxing birthday week. I used this is Halloween kit from SPC, which is obviously a Nightmare Before Christmas inspired spread. Nightmare Before Christmas is one of my all-time favorite movies, and since this is both my birthday week and the week before Halloween, I wanted to keep it spooky, but also do a spread that incorporated some of my favorite things, and Nightmare Before Christmas fits that bill. And I pulled in lavender hollow foil. I had this Park Hopper foil from SPC that has some Disney Mickey, like the Mickey head elements in there. So pulled that in since it is obviously a Disney movie, and I thought that worked really well. And something that I really like about SPC's Lavender Hollow is it works really well still with regular hollow foil, so I can pull in hollow scripts from Randy.Plans or SPC, and it doesn't clash or stand out crazy much from the Lavender Hollow. But I just love how the Lavender Hollow worked with this spread. I've ended up turning into such a stan for Lavender Hollow. I feel like I use it a ton. Every time Andrea releases a different wiggle format with Lavender Hollow, I buy so many of them because I keep burning through it. It ended up, I use it so much. It works with so many different spreads. So, I digress. But yeah, this was just a really nice week. I read a ton, so I'm going to jump into the books that I read this week. So the first book that I finished was The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern, which, if you are new here, is my all-time favorite book. I have probably at this point read it 10 to 12 times, if not more. I reread it at least once a year. I think the first year that I read it 4 or 5 times. I just immediately fell in love with this book, and every time I've returned to it, I feel like I've gotten something new out of the story, or I've noticed a detail or a reference that I did not notice a time before. It is something that I just find immensely fulfilling to return to again and again. If you are unfamiliar with what The Night Circus is about, it is a historical fantasy that takes place in the late 1800s and early 1900s that follows a traveling magical circus. And it's basically a book about place. It's a book about the circus and the people involved in the circus and the people that are impacted by the circus. And obviously there's characters that I have come to love and adore over the many times that I have read this book. But I think that this is neither a plot nor a character-driven story. It is a place-driven story, and Erin Morgenstern's writing is so transportive and immersive. It really takes you into the circus, and she is so good at writing in a way where you can just completely imagine everything about a place. She includes a lot of olfactory descriptors, which is something that I notice a lot of people don't do, but she always includes what a place smells like, and I think that's part of what makes it so transportive. I mean, she doesn't do it in a very obvious way. She's not like, the place smells like this, but it's just always part of her building this world, and it's just all of your senses. You can imagine this place so fully. And I adore the circus. It's whimsical and magical, and there's always secrets. And even as someone who's read it, you know, as many times as I have, like I said, every time I return to the book, I notice a little detail or a layer or a reference that I didn't notice in earlier readings. Something that I think she does really beautifully is she layers stories within her stories, which is something that she explores more fully as a concept in The Starless Sea, but there are elements of that in the Night Circus as well. It is not told in chronological order. There's multiple timelines going on, and so we jump back and forth in time, and there are stories that kind of weave all of these different timelines together and weave characters together, and there are themes that are repeated throughout various stories, and I just love this book so much. It is like returning home every time I pick it up, and I absolutely adore it. I would say if you are someone who is a very strong plot-driven reader, or you need characters where you are inside the characters' heads and it's a very, you know, strong character-driven story, then this probably won't be for you. But if you are someone who just wants to get lost in a place and experience the wonder and whimsy of a magical environment, and you just want to experience a story, I think this is the book for you. It is just so magical and wonderful, and I can't say enough good things about this book. It is just, I have a huge smile on my face right now. This book means so much to me, and I could talk about this for forever, but I am going to let that be. You guys get the picture of why I love this book so much, and move on to the next books that I read this week. So, like I did last week, I kind of talked about all of the Murderbot books that I read as one, and I'm going to do that again. I read the other two novellas and the full-length novel in the Murderbot series this week. The sixth, in terms of publication order, book, Fugitive Telemetry, doesn't come out until April, but I did, or I guess I still do, have an arc of Fugitive Telemetry, and chronologically speaking, it comes before the novel, even though it was published after the novel. So I just decided to read them in chronological order because I had them, and you don't really need to, there isn't really necessarily like a plot connecting all of them, if that makes sense. So the first novella that I read was Exit Strategy. And again, all of these are by Martha Wells. And then I read Fugitive Telemetry, and then I read the novel Network Effect. And like I mentioned in last week's video, that these books aren't really about the plot. They're about Murderbot as a character, and it is very much driven by being inside Murderbot's head and the dry, sarcastic humor. Murderbot is a depressed, anxious robot android situation who has hacked its governor module. So the thing that basically forces it to accept commands from humans, because it wants to just sit and watch soap operas all day long. And so Murderbot still goes out on jobs to protect humans, but kind of half-asses its job and sits and watches feeds in its head all day long of different TV shows. And it is just, it's funny, and it's very sarcastic and dry kind of humor. And Murderbot is almost charming in a way. And I love watching Murderbot develop as a character and kind of accept that it has some feelings and emotions, and watch it very slowly build connections with people around it, and kind of Murderbot discovering its personhood. And I I love Murderbot so much, but these are not very plot-focused stories. I think part of that is because this is told from Murderbot's point of view, and I said this last week too, Murderbot is mostly focused on internal stuff and not so much external stuff, and there, especially in the novel, there were a lot of plot elements that it was kind of like a blink and you miss it, and I was kind of confused. At certain points, I had to look up, once I got done with the book, I was like, I don't understand why that happened, and so I had to look up on like the Murderbot wiki, and I'm like, oh, I missed that thing that connected those. I don't know if that makes sense, but it's not a series that I really read for the plots. I don't really remember the plots for the most part, except I will say I did really like the plot of Fugitive Telemetry because it was structured more like a murder mystery, and we get Murderbot as detective, so this had a more plot-driven storyline because Murderbot is actively trying to figure out this murder and piecing all the stuff together, so there is more focus on external stuff, even while Murderbot is thinking and you're inside Murderbot's head. It is thinking about what is going on outside of it, which doesn't always happen a lot in the books. But I really enjoyed all of these. I gave them 4 out of 5 stars. Like I said, I read these just to be inside Murderbot's head because it's great, and I love Murderbot so much. So I would highly recommend that you check these out. Like I said, Fugitive Telemetry is not out yet. It comes out April 27th. I got this arc very, very early. So if you're a Murderbot fan, get excited because I really enjoyed it. I think Fugitive Telemetry is probably my favorite since All Systems Red, which was the first one. So get excited. Fugitive Telemetry was really, really good. And then the next book that I read was This Is How You Lose the Time War by Amal El-Mohtar and Max Gladstone, and I gave this a 5 out of 5 stars. This is a very weird epistolary sci-fi novella that features 2 star-crossed lovers across a time war, and they just go by red and blue, and one is on one side of the war and one is on the other, and they're both operatives that are moving through time, and they leave letters for each other, and they start out as enemies, and through these letters end up falling in love with each other, and it is delightful, and it's so weird, and there's a lot that doesn't make sense that's kind of weird, and I have a feeling that on rereads, I'm going to just piece more and more and more of it together. It was so good. I definitely, if you're someone who wants all the answers and you don't like weird stuff, this isn't for you, but if you are someone who likes weird, timey-wimey stuff, then this is the book for you. It's very short and it's delightful. I loved this so much. I actually bought it because I know I'm going to reread this multiple times, and I'm already looking forward to rereading it again. The last book that I finished this week is one that has been talked about ad nauseum since it was published, and I don't really have anything new to add to the conversation, so this is going to be pretty brief, but it was The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. I'm actually kicking myself because I had an arc of this, and I never got around to the arc, so I did read a finished copy, but I wish I had read it sooner because I absolutely adored this book. I gave it a 5 out of 5 stars, and this was just a really beautiful story and a very character-focused story. If you are unfamiliar with the concept behind Addie LaRue, we follow a girl, Addie, in 1700s France, who on the eve of her marriage that she doesn't want to be in, feels trapped. She runs into the woods and prays to any god that will hear her to save her, to give her freedom. And this kind of devil-esque character appears in the woods, and he offers her freedom in exchange for her never being able to be remembered by anyone. And the story follows Addie from 1700s France to modern day New York City as she kind of deals with the effects, some obvious and some maybe not so obvious, of this curse and her relationship with this devil character. And in modern day New York City, she comes across the first person who has remembered her in the entire time since she has been cursed, and their relationship that develops. And this is just such a lovely story. The writing is beautiful and the characters were just awesome. I loved Addie so much. I loved Henry so much. I loved everything about this book so much. I thought it was just beautiful and lovely. I think if you are someone who is a plot-driven reader, this is not going to be the book for you. It's a very character-focused book, and, you know, it gets into how Addie sort of finds ways to circumvent the rules of her curse and how she still finds ways to make an impact and to leave her mark on the world, even when she's been cursed to not be able to do that. And I really loved that. There's a lot of incorporation of the arts, and it was a lovely story. I enjoyed it so very much and highly recommend it. I'm definitely in the camp that I really enjoyed this. So that was everything that I read this week, and this is my finished spread. As always, the shops that I routinely use will be linked in the description down below, along with all of the books that I read, and my Goodreads if you want to keep up with what I'm reading, and also my Instagram, you know, for other planner posts and book posts, and, you know, to find out what I'm doing throughout the week. So this is my, like, the wiggle. I love this. I love the Lavender Hollow wiggle. Everything about this, it just works for me. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I will talk to you in my next one. Bye, guys.